What is going on, everybody? Today we're going to look at the tape of guard Nate Davis, who the Chicago Bears paid a ton of money to last season. And he's a guy that definitely had some struggles, and he's a guy that I think definitely got worse going from 2 years ago into last season. His tape last year was very inconsistent, but there were a ton of really good reps on tape. And today we're going to analyze all of that. And we'll also get into the negative reps, and we'll talk about what this guy can do going into this season to really get past that point, to really get back to form where you can consider Davis one of the better guards in the NFL. Now, what made Nate Davis a great guard with the Tennessee Titans was honestly the quickness that he had. It was the ability to get out in front of people, to take a great angle when it comes to run blocking. And he did show that this past season. It may be a little overlooked because he did have losing snaps, but I do think there are a ton of really good snaps. And we're going to actually start this video just looking at some of the things he did do. So on this one here, you guys can see the quarterback's going to keep the ball. And he's going to run this all the way out here towards the right. For the offensive linemen, these guys are all basically going to have to reach at least a gap to the right. So what that means for Davis is he has a 3 technique that he needs to get out in front of. This is a very difficult block to do. A lot of guys aren't able to do what Nate Davis does on this one. Not only does Davis get all the way to the right side of the 3 technique, but he even flips the hips. I mean, it does not get better than this block right here. This is absolutely incredible. And these are the type of blocks that Nate Davis was making this past season. The guy had a lot of really good snaps, like that one, as well as this next one here. On this one here, it is a little bit easier because it's a 2-eye technique, a defensive lineman, so it's a little bit easier for him to make this block. But there is something he does within this block that I think is going to be overlooked. Now, it is kind of hard to see, but if you guys zoom in, slow this down, you guys are going to be able to see exactly what he does. So Nate Davis has a backside seal on the quarterback keeper here. So basically, Davis just has to get out in front of this guy. He has to make sure this defensive lineman is not able to jump the A gap here and possibly chase this from the backside. So what Davis is going to do is he's going to actually snatch down this defensive lineman's hands. You see it right there. You see the defensive lineman ends up falling downwards. So if you keep an eye on the right hand of Davis, the right hand right there is going to come over here to the right. And then look at him chop down the hands of the defensive lineman. And you see the defensive lineman actually kind of go downwards right there. So to me, that's a good job by Davis. And then he's going to just get right in front of this guy. He's going to make sure the defensive lineman is not going to be able to jump through that A gap and get to the quarterback. Being able to reach, being able to cut people off is one of the strengths we saw from Davis this past season. Now here's another one where he's going to end up reaching the 3 technique. This one is going to be a double by right. Right's going to end up climbing to the next level. So it's a really good job once again by Nate Davis to be able to allow Darnell Wright to release. It allows Darnell Wright to climb up to the next level. But within this play, the impressive part is that as Davis makes contact with the D tackle, look at him flip the hips, look at him turn, and look at him seal this off right here. Once again, just a really good job being able to shut this guy down, flip the hips. That does give the running back the opportunity to hit that gap right there. Now on this one, the running back's going to end up just taking it to the outside. Davis does his job. He does what he's asked to do within this play. So as we're talking about Davis, you do got to keep in mind this guy has one huge strength, and that is his ability to reach block, right? It's his ability to run block, just generally speaking. The angles this guy takes is phenomenal. Now, we've been primarily talking so far about his ability to reach block, specifically in zone runs. The way he's able to get out in front of people, the way you see on this one's a little bit more difficult because this guy's really playing that long 3 technique or that 4-eye technique. So this one's harder. This defensive lineman is already in a spot where he has the containment of the B gap. So for Davis to be able to get all the way to the right side of this guy is very difficult. And he's also not going to get any help from the tackle. So the fact that Davis is able to get over here and he's able to flip the hips is absolutely incredible. Huge strength of Nate Davis is reaching backside, front side on zone runs. Another thing he does really well is he plays with really good leverage and power in run blocking situations. Take this play right here as an example. He's going to have a very simple down block, but this block is very important for this play to work because without him holding the block here, the running back doesn't have this cutback option. So Davis does a great job being able to hold his guy down. But what I really like about Davis is down blocking ability. And you'll see it if you guys just kind of watch the angle that Davis is going to make contact with this guy. Look at him turn and leverage himself. Look at him fight the defensive lineman here. To me, this is a really good job by him turning right there, right? You see him trying to gain that leverage on this defensive lineman. And he does a good enough job where he's able to get out in front of this guy. And the running back does cut this right to the backside of Davis. And this one right here picks up 21 yards, right? So again, just a really good job by Nate Davis. And I love the leverage, right? I love the leverage he plays with, love the technique he plays with, especially in run blocking, right? And that's kind of the emphasis right now. But again, it's not just the leverage. The guy is also very, very strong. He has a really good base. The leverage, when, he gets out of his stance, he's low. All of that translates into him being a good run blocker. All right, so you see plays like this as well, where he does a really, really nice job reaching to the inside. He's going to out leverage this defensive lineman by getting underneath him, bench presses him, creates that separation, chops the feet, opens up a massive hole for the running back to pick up 13 yards. So again, a lot of really, really good reps when it comes to run blocking. Now, I do want to switch focus, and I want to talk a little bit about something else he does, and that's his ability to process things. I think it's absolutely special. And one of the ways to really test offensive linemen, and if they process well, is when teams are running the duo concept, offensive linemen have the responsibility to read up to the linebackers. So based off of how the linebackers are moving, you got to be able to make your reads, right? You got to be able to see what's kind of happening. And on this play, 3 separate things kind of happen, and I kind of want to break it down a little bit on exactly what happens within this play. So right away, the blocks here are going to be a double to this defensive lineman up to number 59 for those 2 guys. The center, right guard have a double on the 1 technique up to Quay Walker, number 7 here. And then all of these other guys basically have out blocks, right? Super simple out blocks, just kind of sealing it off. And the running back just has to read exactly where the hole is ultimately going to open up. Now, if you guys keep an eye on Davis, one of the things that's going to happen is as soon as the ball gets snapped, Quay Walker, the linebacker, ends up shooting over here towards the right. So what Davis is going to do is he's going to quickly release off of this guy. He's going to let the center take him, and he's going to quickly end up trying to go over here towards the right because he has to now get Quay Walker. Right, Walker is his responsibility based off of Walker as soon as the ball got snapped going towards that right side. Now, to take it a step further, you're going to see that Walker as well as the defensive end are running a run stunt. So what that means is the defensive end's jumping to the inside, Walker's jumping to the outside. They're basically trying to trick the offensive lineman. So now the responsibilities shift. Davis has to be able to take on the defensive end, and then Darnell Wright has to let go of the defensive end, and he has to pick up the linebacker. So Davis, once again, is going to see that. He's going to process that, and he's going to end up getting to the defensive end. Right? So Davis has to process multiple things within this play. Now, the play does not work. It only picks up about 2 yards. But you'll see that the play ends up getting blown up by the guy lined up right in the A gap right there. You're going to see that the center ends up just getting swam right over. Terrible block right there. But again, these are the little things that Davis can do well. He can process really, really well. And that processing does translate into all phases of football. And we'll go ahead and switch over into his pass blocking because that's when you can also see a lot of the processing power of offensive linemen. Take this play right here as an example. The Detroit Lions, you're going to end up lining multiple people on the line of scrimmage. They're going to have their linebackers show this double mug look. Essentially, they'll put 2 linebackers in both A gaps. And oftentimes, they're going to bring these guys. The offensive linemen have to be responsible to be able to process everything that kind of happens. And Davis on this one does a really, really good job. And it happened super quickly, so you may have missed it. But let's slow it down and let's analyze exactly what happens within this play. So right away, Davis is going to get out of his stance. The slide is to the right, so the center is going to end up taking the linebacker to the right, while the running back has to take the linebacker to the left of the center. So the center, right guard, right tackle are going to slide to the right, and Davis is going to slide to the defensive tackle here. You're also going to end up seeing this stunt that kind of happens up front, and watch Davis be able to process this. Even though he's off balance initially, right? You can see this defensive lineman really ends up getting to the backside of Davis. There's no reason why this defensive lineman should not be able to win this block. The center does a really good job making sure Davis is able to recover if Davis gets put into a bad spot. And Davis has great footwork, and he ends up being able to switch with the center. Both Davis and the center do a really, really good job on this play. Right? To me, the way Nate Davis is able to process, as he's sliding to the right, he's processing. They run that game right there. He's able to switch, and then he shuts it down as well. Just a phenomenal rep by Nate Davis. It really doesn't get better than this snap right here by Davis. All right, so when it comes to processing, the guy does a great job. He's able to see things that I think sometimes offensive linemen will miss, especially guys that are either rookies, second or third year players. Davis doesn't have that issue. You got another one here. Montez Sweat, Payne are going to end up running this defensive line game. And once again, watch Nate Davis do a great job picking it up. He's going to end up swapping on this one. He sees it. Darnell Wright does a great job. He shuts it down. And you're going to get a 20-yard touchdown pass on 3rd and 14. The play doesn't work without that defensive line game being processed. Now, I really like what Darnell Wright does because of the fact that Montez Sweat is going first. It's pivotal that Darnell Wright slows down Sweat, and he makes sure that Sweat doesn't get a free shot at Nate Davis. He needs to make sure that these two guys are touching this guy together. They're able to slow this guy down together. And then after that happens, Wright has to be able to get off and then get back to the defensive tackle. And both guys do a great job. You see both guys are able to shut it down. You see Davis is able to anchor down, gain that leverage. And Justin Fields does a great job with the 20-yard touchdown pass. And again, that comes down to processing, but it's more than just processing with Davis. From the run game to being able to pick up defensive line games, even the screenplays. I mean, look at this play right here. Initially, he doesn't do that good of a job, right? He should have probably done a little bit of a better job on number 91. But then he's able to turn and then get upfield and make a key block on 3rd and 10. To me, this is exactly what you want from Davis, right? You want him to be able to process. And think about how quickly he has to process on this play. So initially, he does get swam over. We'll talk a little bit about his pass pro here in a second, especially against guys that have elite pass rushing ability. But on this one, 91's going to swim over the top. Davis has to do a little bit of a better job holding that. But the quarterback does a great job getting the ball out. And then look at Davis spin around and recognize that the quarterback is going to be able to get the ball out. And then look at how quickly from the time he spins around, he has to process and pick a guy up. Keep in mind, we're slowing this in half speed. In real time, it is not as easy to process this. In real time, it happens so quickly from the time he turns around to realizing where number 6, the linebacker, is going to be, to being able to get there and make the block. All right, so great job by Davis to be able to do a nice job on this screenplay. Davis does do a really good job out in space, right? He's a really, really good mover, right? Very fast, very quick. So he does a really nice job being able to get out in space, finding linebackers or safeties, and actually making the block, right? Actually getting his hands attached to these guys. One of the things we see with a ton of NFL offensive guards or centers is they're not that fast, so they're not able to actually make contact with guys that are running, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, 40-yard dashes. And with Nate Davis, you're going to see this play in, play out. Really good job being able to get out in space, picking guys off, making contact with linebackers. But I do want to go ahead and switch focus. Now I want to talk a little bit about his pass pro, because although he does have a ton of good reps, snaps like this where he's able to make contact with the one technique, and by himself, he's able to shut it down, right? So there are plays like this with Nate Davis. Of his 663 snaps, 600 of those are going to be just like this when it comes to pass blocking. But there are a lot of losing snaps as well when it comes to pass blocking. Take this play right here as an example. Nate Davis loses when it comes to pass blocking when he has to take on guys that have different pass rush tools and techniques. When guys have multiple moves. When guys know how to counter, he generally does struggle with that at times. Now, this isn't a terrible block because he is able to stay in front of the defensive lineman, but it's not a winning block by any means. As an offensive lineman, you have to be able to keep the pocket clean, especially the guys on the inside. And on this one here, Nate Davis in a one-on-one is going to just get straight pushed back. So you can't have that, right? You got to do a better job. And it is one of the common things you're going to see with Davis, right? He loses a lot against power or guys that are generally good pass rushers. You'll see on this one here, Aiden Hutchinson's going to line up super, super wide. He's obviously lined up over the tackle. I would still consider this lined up in the long 3 technique because you can tell there's a guy on the outside. Aiden Hutchinson's going to pass rush, and he's basically going to be going up against Davis, right? But you can see on this one, Davis is going to end up losing, and Justin Fields going to take a pretty big hit. This was 3rd and 18. These are the plays where you got to be able to step up and shut this down, right? These are the plays you're going to be in a one-on-one. And Hutchinson's going to straight up bull rush Nate Davis, and then he's going to turn that bull rush into a speed move, and he's going to just get right around Nate Davis, right? So you can't have this right here if you're Davis. Now, again, there's a snaps like this on tape where he does struggle with power. Here's one more where he's going to end up losing to number 97, Phillips here. Once again, right, just allowing the pressure to happen to the quarterback, right? You can't allow that to happen. Now, there are some things that I think Davis can do to ultimately mitigate the risk of losing against power, losing against guys that are a little bit longer. I think the one thing Davis has to do is he has to continue to work out. He has to continue to put the effort in the offseason. I truly believe that if you have a fantastic offseason, as an NFL player going into the season, you will have a much better season. Now, I don't know what Davis's work ethic is like. I don't follow him close enough to know that. But I do know that if he puts a ton of effort into getting stronger, he puts a ton of effort into wanting to be a great football player, The athletic tools and traits are there for him. And he does have the frame, right? He's about 6'3.5", so there's no reason why he cannot develop and continue to get better. Overall, I think Nate Davis is one of those guys that has so much potential to continue to develop. He has so much potential to get better. He's only 27 years old. And I do also think that having Cody Whitehair to your inside and a rookie in Darnell Wright to your outside, I do think those type of things does impact you as a football player. In my opinion, if you're a guy that has two guys to your left and right that may not be that good, at least in their rookie seasons, or maybe they're young, they're still learning the game, it is definitely going to impact you no matter what, right? And I do think this season, the fact that Darnell Wright is going to go into his second season, as well as the fact that the Bears went out and got a different center outside of Whitehair, I do think that's going to allow Nate Davis to actually be a lot better this season. And I expect Nate Davis to have a much better season for the Bears this season. And I think Ryan Poles has done a great job, and the Bears are getting to that point where the offensive line is slowly coming together. And there's a lot of upside with this offensive line. I think this offensive line has the potential to become a top 10 unit based off of the individual guys that they do have on the offensive line. But we need to see a little bit more from Braxton Jones, who we will be looking at in a week or so. So subscribe if you're not subscribed for that one so you don't miss out on it. And then of course, we need to see who wins the center position, because I think there will be a true battle at that center position. With that being stated, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, consider subscribing. We will be covering the Bears once again this season. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time with another video.